the Secretary of the Interior guidelines and the City of Fredericksburg design guidelines. Anyone wishing to make a statement in relation to anything going on with the Historic Review Board needs to sign up at the sheet in the foyer. If you are a representative or an applicant for a property that's being presented, there's no need to sign up. You can speak when the application is called. Approval by this board results in a certificate of appropriateness. A certificate of appropriateness is issued by the Historic Preservation Officer. It is not a permit. You still need to apply for all the permits necessary through the city of Fredericksburg. Anything else? Anything I missed, Anna? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll start with public comment. Did anybody sign up for public comment? No. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the Historic Preservation Officer's report.
So the group from Texas Tech will be back. The College of Architecture, their studio class, will be giving their final presentations at the University Center on November 18th. And you all are invited to attend that and give them feedback. They're looking at, none of the properties are actually in the historic district, but some of the entry corridor and on the University Center property. So if you can attend, that'll be from 9 to noon on the 18th. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, moving on to the 12th meeting. Are there any changes? Will be approved by one motion of the board adopting the staff findings and recommendations as part of the approval. The items in the consent agenda will not be discussed. Any member of the board individual for the first. One. Similar to stone axe. The other will have 2 build 2 19-foot tall houses behind the proposed 2-story, and they will have horizontal hardy plank and shingle roofs. I've cited the design standards for lot coverage, parking, and new construction in residential districts. So staff's recommendation. Items 1 and 2, the design of the proposed new structures meet the design standards for materials and differentiation and compatibility of style and form with a front porch and traditional design features as cited above. Placed at the back of the lot, and the site plan Anna,
Hello, I'm George with Interiors.
welcome back.
Thank you. And most few of you weren't. But yes, as Anna said, we removed one of the buildings per your request, and we made the two buildings in the rear just one-story buildings. So the idea is to make it look like two properties that have a house in the front and then an outbuilding in the rear. So we reduced the bedroom count in the two rear buildings to 2 bedrooms instead of 3, and of course made them 1-story, so they're smaller in scale than the buildings in front.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions from the board? Any questions or comments?
Yeah, just thank you for making the revisions we.
Thank you.
Just a comment. Item 4.1. Contextual assessment of the permitted lot. I guess approximately 28 people location in the residential neighborhood is a bit excessive. So.
Yeah, yes, sir. One thing about this lot is it's not quite a double lot, but it's almost the size of a double lot. So in comparison, it's not quite. I think about a few feet of it was sold to the lot on the right. So it does appear to be, as far as density, when you're looking down the street, I think it's pretty appropriate and pretty much in scale with the other houses that are there.
Yeah, I have noticed that it is an oversized lot. I'm just thinking about the contextual assessment in the neighborhood. Most lots have at most 2 structures with occupants in it versus 4. This would be, I guess, the most occupants per building anywhere that I know in the neighborhood. So that's based my comments on that. So.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a couple
Wait,
of comments.
come to the microphone and
Yes,
give us
I'm
your
sorry.
name,
I'm
please.
Janice Reese, and I own the property with my husband. Actually, we own 306 West Travis as well, and it's a single lot. We have 3 houses back to back on that property. 3 separate structures. And to the right of this property, you have, I don't know if you're familiar with that Victorian, we have almost like a hotel right next door to us. So we've tried to be very cognizant to try to do what we could to make this look like it fit in with the neighborhood. We made a lot of changes that we weren't anticipating, so that because we do have almost a double lot, it looks like we have 2 separate properties side by side. So I just wanted to point that out because that particular block has a lot of E&Ds on it, and there's another one on the other side of ours at 310 that's got a parking lot, all in the front and corrugated metal structures all over it. I mean, that block is not really, I would say, typical. I mean, there's a few houses on the block that are, but it's already, before the historic board put it, or the historic district put it in, there was a lot of changes that had already occurred in that block. So I just wanted to point that out. I wasn't sure if you were familiar with what we were next door to and what all else was on that particular street and block that we're.
Oh, yeah, we go look at all of them.
Do
Okay.
you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
I
used to
didn't know
walk my
that.
kids to school every day on the block sign.
Oh,
the
okay.
Bible sign.
Yes, you did.
So,
I might point out that the zoning is an R2, they could have put an apartment building there. They did leave it residential in appearance.
how about a motion to approve? Anybody? Or deny a motion?
I'll make a motion. In accordance with sections 3.4.1 and 3.4.2.1 of the Fredericksburg Historic District Design Standards and Guidelines, I move that the application 21-116 be approved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. One opposed. Approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work on that. I know it went.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, application 20, Washington.
Add new from the street with mooring on. Hey. That's the front. Mr. Washington. Iron. Should be in. So I have cited the walls. Staff's recommendations and fin that have impacted represents a significance on the sideline. And it would windows, Item C, D, Board of Presidents. Section 3.M E, the new porch and the to the rear. It's the interior stairs. The three new windows will not be absorbed. Item Preservation. If the doors are proposed to the doors remain of as many roof. Item M, state with our
on this of work. Through the project in the property, it's a very we're focusing on the 4 in the house to make it viable. And it's already covered to the detail, so I won't go into much of that, but I'll say we're just trying to make our best effort to maintain and repair, the historic elements of the house. Any or altered, as well as primarily we would agree that there those we would 3/4 of an inch at most. We certainly don't want to build higher on the floor, and so right now we're proposing tile tasteful than what we see here. I don't have that tile with. It would certainly provide that for approval along with final paint color selections, but it would be something than what we see here. Guest room entry doors. The requirement that we were given from our drawings have to have a room. Now, way into the unit. Shot. Again, to our unless it's a project to alter these, that you have to alter to meet state law, and so that's my direction to take. Unless Anna can find some exception with the state historic preservation officer, I am more than open to that. But if we don't get an exception at the state level, then we have to comply with state law. So
you're talking about the doors that go into Unit
yes,
1 and Unit 2?
The door that goes into Unit 1 and the door that goes into Unit 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we were making those 3-foot wide doors to comply, and they would be rebuilt exactly as they appear now. They're just new, wider doors. And, if we could salvage them and just maintain what we have, that saves money too. So I'd be all for that. So I'll continue to be open to Anna's suggestion if she finds an avenue we can take, because there's going to be other projects that have this similar situation, whether or not they're aware of it. As for the parking in front of the building, as Anna mentioned, the parking has been approved previously at Historic Review Board and Planning and Zoning. Base material has already been laid down for several of these parking spaces in the front, and so it would be our preference to keep the spaces as proposed. Now, if the board agrees to remove the one space closest to the house, I think we can make that concession if we are allowed to keep the other 4 spaces there that are shown closer to the street. Okay, I think that's all I have.
Thank you,
Please,
Brandon.
happy to answer any questions.
Questions, board? Does everybody know the history of these houses? Everybody on the board, do you know the history? Why they're sister houses? Do you want to Do you know it, Brandon? Can you tell
I
us?
probably don't know it as
Because-
much detail as I should, but I do know that the house adjacent to it, it was built at the same time. The family was related. The houses are basically mirror images of each other, and so it's the house next door is a great reference because it has a lot of the elements that are historic that still remain that we can use for reference.
In terms of the other.
Just
The code.
Now,
It's not the same. Not the same.
You look. What? So I get what you're saying.
it's not our responsibility to make it meet commercial code.
Okay. Good point, thanks. Is there a motion one way or the other? I mean, are more questions for Brandon?
Can any of the builders on the board speak to the concrete porch?
Brandon's correct on the porch. It would be difficult to, without removing it. But I guess on the concrete porch, Brandon, when they closed that in, obviously they cut off ventilation to the pier and beam part of the house. Did they add any vents or anything in that area?
No, I mean, you can see on the interior of the house that there's a perimeter grade beam that runs along the wall, on the back side of the porch. So I think they just infilled that porch structure and then topped it with a slab. So yeah, underneath the porch is not ventilated, but, which I guess it wouldn't have to be now that it has concrete structure over it. But, yeah, I guess the only ventilation to the, behind the porch would have to come from the existing vents elsewhere on the house, correct?
Do you have any idea of the type of tile you're looking at? I mean, I know there's a tile product that's made to look like wood. I don't know that that would be appropriate, but what direction are you going?
I considered a tile that looks like wood, but I figured that would be too close to imitation and not, if you see the edge of the tile at the edge of the porch, is it going to look too contrived, too much like imitation wood, but because it doesn't have that thickness like the adjacent porch has. I almost think if you're going to go with a tile, then make it look like a tile product, something more in line with the stone or concrete look of the tile.
Can we see the other house? Is it porch wood?
Yes, it's 2x6s, I believe.
Brandon, would you consider veneer concrete? Because a lot of them were replaced with just, that hard trowel veneer concrete. You can do that over your cap instead of tile.
Possibly, yeah. That's a good suggestion. I thought, well, when you remove the tile, what are you left with? Are you able to work that back to a good condition, just the concrete? But you're saying to a plaster?
Yeah,
over it?
veneer, or grind it.
Mhm.
Oh, it still has.
I'm not, I'm not
steps.
opposed to that suggestion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Before we decide on these doors, Daniel, where are we at with the other case? I don't want to cross ourselves here.
It's still in the appellate court, so we don't have an answer on the case yet from the appellate court. It's still pending. I don't know if this issue is necessarily the same issue, but I mean, it's sort of a similar fact pattern, but it's not really the same issue.
Are you concerned about it making a problem for that case? Because we've already had a ruling in our favor. It's just they're appealing the ruling.
Correct. I'm not, I don't have any concern about that.
Okay.
I'm concerned about us changing the building to make it commercial, because if it was residential, if it was staying residential, we wouldn't be talking about the doors. Just from a preservation perspective, which is our charge.
What if the owner of the house lived there in a wheelchair? We allow it. Yeah. I'm asking your opinion.
It's all hypothetical, residential. Residential hypothetical on this, and so is handicapped. A handicapped resident is hypothetical.
All right, Anna, what do the guidelines say?
Let's see. Yeah, I cited the ADA compliance. It's on page 37.
It behooves the owner to actually try to work with Anna and the state to get an
Absolutely.
exception.
Absolutely, and I'm open to it.
Cost-effective. And so, given the length of the time for the project, you could probably give her 60 days or 90 days to
Yeah.
work the issue.
Absolutely. We're willing to wait and see if you get an answer to allow an exception.
Okay, so with that,
I'll make a motion. 1 dash. Sorry. Let's strike that, excuse me. We'll try again. I'll make a motion to approve application 21-110, 614 South Washington Street, as presented, with the exclusion of item
okay,
K. And we'll give city staff 90 days to work with the exception, to remove, to leave the existing doors in place.
And just for clarification, the other recommendations of the staff on parking and et cetera, is your motion?
It didn't address that, but I would love for you to amend the motion.
I'm not sure how to do that. Is that, I'm happy to say that,
his motion doesn't have a second, so you can start all over with a new motion.
well, David's motion was great. I think the motion
Okay.
should be, doesn't necessarily need to cite the sections, but the historic district design guidelines and standards to move to approve application 21-110 with both the conditions and the limitations cited in the staff recommendation and findings.
That sounds better than mine.
Okay,
Clarify, what does that mean for the porch and the parking? Yeah. Veneer concrete, is that what we're suggesting to go back with in lieu of tile? Okay.
Yeah. With the porch being of veneer concrete.
Yes.
okay. Can I get a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay,
My motion died without a second.
right. Any discussion? Any more questions? Anybody? Okay, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Who opposed, same sign. Okay, motion approved. Application's approved. Thank you,
Thank
Brandon.
you all.
Moving on to item D on the agenda, item 21-129, 313 West Austin. Anna?
Application 21-129, 313 West Austin in the Central Business District. The property has a medium rating, and the proposal is to demolish a garage. And I have cited the relevant sections of the Fredericksburg Historic Preservation Ordinance, which speaks to demolition of medium-rated properties. The small garage is typical of its time and a good representation of an early garage. Staff went on site to inspect the garage and made the following observations. While it has some damage at the foundation, the majority of the structure can be rehabilitated to extend the useful life. Given the location of the garage on the lot, staff could support relocation of the garage elsewhere on the lot. And this recommendation is in keeping with the Historic Preservation Ordinance for demolition.
Is there anyone here for this property? Give us your name, please.
Sean Maxon. So I would be glad to move it. I mean, honestly, at this point, after seeing everything and heard everything, I think I'll just leave it alone and fix it out right where it is. I can talk to the homeowner. She was all for leaving it, at least moving it maybe, but fixing it up is not a problem. That just adds to the project, and I would be delighted. We could bring it back to life. Maybe move it over a little bit from under the tree. It's kind of in an awkward place. At least let it be facing this way, lengthways with the property and driveway, perhaps. Or I'm open to suggestions.
We need another application if we're going to move it. Can we just approve moving it tonight? I mean,
I'm okay with the action because, demolition is what they're asking for in moving it to another location on the lot is sort of like a lesser version of the same thing. So I think that, you're sort of granting something that's like a subsidiary of the main request. So I'm okay with the board taking action
okay.
on anything under the demo, which would be demolition or relocation or removal, any of the options that you have under that section.
Okay, thank you.
There's no foundation, correct? No concrete?
No. Just rotted flooring, skids.
Okay. In light of that, can I get a motion? Or are there any other questions? I'm sorry.
We got to have a site plan back to Anna.
David says we don't have to.
Well,
I mean,
No,
David,
you're gonna have to have a site plan to move it, to get a building permit.
to move it on the property if they want to move it. So, go ahead, Mike.
If it's moved, we need that. If it stays where it is, we wouldn't need that.
But we can approve a moving of it conditionally based on the site plan. Give him some flexibility.
Yes,
you know,
that'd be nice.
Not having to redo it where it's at.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I'll cop one up. I'll have to get back.
Okay. So can we get a motion?
All right, I'll make a motion to approve application 21-129 based on staff recommendation, and that it be relocated on the lot, and staff approval of the site plan.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Application 21-130 for 204 South Edison. Anna? Do we have someone here for the property? Okay, we'll let Anna present, and then you'll come up like everyone has. I just didn't know if someone was here. Go ahead, Anna.
Application 21-130 at 204 South Edison. It's an R1 zone property with a medium rating, and the applicant is requesting to A, replace solid wood front door with wood door with upper lights, B, remove porch railing, C, replace porch turned columns with painted wood post. And D, replace an unpainted wood shutter. For alterations, openings, rating in the 2002 survey, shutters present, and it retains many traditional features. Staff does not recommend approval of the replacement of porch columns, addition of the shutters. In the 2002 survey, there were no shutters present, and inappropriate shutters with stars have been added. If shutters are deemed to be appropriate, they match the style and time period of the house as noted in the design. It's intact and repairable. Staff reconcile staff does not recommend a replaced in kind. Proposed square rough hew 5A and B.
So
Yeah. It's the changes of that. I don't know.
And sure that
think yeah. Or, yeah. You've replaced it with, or too big for.
Oh, well, I didn't actually replace, just wrap them with cedar, so
They're still underneath those.
they're like cedar. And like I said, we did it, didn't know it needed.
Mark,
That's three.
And board that before maybe what, but for the home, is that what I'm?
I look at the designs and guidelines. I didn't even know they existed.
Okay.
And I also wanted to Anna, because I had very serious emergency surgery in the middle of all of this, and Mark was so focused on keeping me alive and taking care of me that we let that slide. And we shouldn't have, and for my part, I apologize, and I'm so sorry. So for whatever that's worth, I do apologize. I would be more attentive to things like that, and that's really more my side. If I hadn't done it. So this is my first focus. Why? No. Just where it's anyway, and I want to make this, to cooperate, to get into compliance.
Is this your home?
Yes, we own it. Yeah, we're selling it and we're renting across the street, but we are in the process of selling it. Yeah. The taxes were getting a little high, and so it actually became cheaper for us to rent.
Am I understanding you to say that you're willing to take the shutters down and/or paint them black, and you're willing to unwrap the posts for now?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, and I did want to put in that request to see if we could paint those shutters. And then if we unwrap the post, can we just paint them black? Would we all be good if we did that? Just unwrap the post, paint them black, and then paint the shutters black? Would we be in compliance at that point?
We'd really need an application as to what you want to do. Those are changes that we just can't pick and choose and approve. You also changed the door, right? You took the
Yes,
old
ma'am.
door off?
Yes, ma'am, I changed the door.
Okay.
And I tried to get it something that looked more like a craftsman door, to just try to match the era.
It was a metal Lowe's door that was on there, so it was not it was like a 2-year-old door, so it was just it was actually an interior door.
Oh, my.
That they put on the
Yeah, it was a rental for a long time, and so it was treated like a rental.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of funny things that when we went in there and found that were building just faux pas that were hilarious.
Okay.
And that was, the front door was one of them. So we wanted to replace it with something that would actually shut and, be functional, look good, go with the era, and try to preserve, the historic era of the home.
Okay. Thank you. So can someone form a motion, or do we have more questions or comments? Or,
I have a question for Anna.
I'm sorry, Richard, I didn't hear
I have
what
a
you
question
said.
for Anna. So I thought you were saying the original front door was there, but it wasn't.
Apparently not.
We don't know what was there.
Originally, no. I mean, we know that what they put a replacement and there's a yellow solid door that you can see here.
Yeah.
But yeah, not really saying that's a original because I did get to inspect it.
And we're happy to just take the shutters off. It might even be easier than going through the whole certificate of appropriateness process over again to just remove the shutters if necessary, remove the wrappings, and then just paint the columns that are underneath. Just shore them up, paint them. They were a little rotted, but I think I could shore them up and paint them.
Would that be acceptable to the board? And if so, could we form it into a motion? Okay,
That's good.
somebody? Jessica?
I make a motion to approve application 21-130 in keeping with the Fredericksburg design guidelines to, with the exception of, the and probably being
Diana? On those columns?
probably have to do that afterwards, right?
Okay, so Jessica's motion is to approve the application with the removal of the shutters and the removal of the wrapping of the porch posts. As for she said the color administratively, we can't do that.
That can be
You have
done.
to go run it through Anna.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can I get a second to Jessica's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Okay. Can we,
As long as we see the palette, I mean, I'd recommend just bring her a couple of dark shades, because even though black is universal, there's a
Yeah.
lot of different shades of it, so.
Okay.
We have a black door on the house already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just match the black door on the house, the exact same color. Yeah, if you guys are allowing me to keep the door, I would love to just go with the exact same color.
okay, Jessica, could you amend your motion?
I move to approve application 21-130 at 204 South Edison, and keeping with the Fredericksburg design guidelines, and the applicant replacing the door, removing the porch railing, replacing, instead of C, removing the wrapped columns to expose the original columns, and painting them the color of the door, and then shutters instead of replacing. Aye.
And 705 landmark. I think it's protecting. I'm not going to go into standouts that we town. Two of those are Jack Staling properties. And so I've been doing some research on Jack Staling, and if any of you or anybody in the public out there knows anything about Jack Staling, I've reached out to one of his sons and one of his great nieces. So I'm making some good contacts and doing some research, as I can from my computer. So Jack Staling, he was a Fredericksburg native, born in 1930 and died in 1996. He was a registered architect who went to the University of Texas. He was the son of Arthur Staling, who was a pretty prominent local businessman and president of Security State Bank. And Jack founded Staling Interest in 1967 with an office here in Fredericksburg and Houston. And he also, for a while, had an office in Mexico City. He designed his personal residence at 701 North Milam, and at his busiest, he had 16 employees and over $1 billion in projects. So some of the local projects, which yeah. Just target her. I've been in contact with her, and she says she has documents that she's willing to share. Local history, he was a sponsor of the St. Group. He also worked with you guys remember, but an article about the Texas Embassy. There was this design proposed. They were going to do it in law, but it was going to be saving historic properties by relocating them to one place and creating an embassy. Historic properties. It all ultimately failed. The Texas Historical Commission was very much against it, but I did find the Texas Monthly article where Jack was listed as the architect. He also worked with the Nimitz Hotel and Center, and Glenn Tribes dropped off some random drawings of his, and one of them was for a Bavarian Inn. That was what it's called, at the Nimitz Center. That obviously wasn't built, but he was involved in that group. So some of his more noteworthy designs beyond Fredericksburg, the Inn of the Hills in Kerrville that he did with Tom Short was an award-winning design and really kind of put him on the map. And after that, he started to get a lot more clients. He had a lot of clients in Houston, and that's when he moved his offices there. He designed a lot of atrium-style business offices, including the Arena Towers in Houston. More close by, he did the Herman Sons Youth Camp near Comfort, and he did design a U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. So, to me, a very significant architect for his time, and that we have a few of his projects here. This was a really neat one, a five-level house in Houston. And so there's a group, a different presentation. There's a group in Houston called Houston Mod, And this is what they exist for, is just to document and promote mid-century architecture in Houston. There's also a mod chapter in Austin, Mid-Tex Mod, and then North Texas. So there are people that this is their passion, is protecting and highlighting historic mid-century properties. So, are you interested in protecting any of Jack Staling's properties in Fredericksburg? And when I say protecting, I mean designating as a historic landmark.
These ones that you have up here, they're one's in the district, right? Or more than one, just one.
Just outside.
That's Patty's.
Yeah.
Oh, the bank is, but you know what? That's not his, that's an Ed Nicholson. It is in the district. It currently has a low rating, so we could re-rate it, because it was done in the 2002 survey. Yes. So yeah, these are the two Jack Staling properties that and there may be more that you know of, but to me, these are, I mean, the Milan one is obviously very visible, and the Woodcrest one is currently on the market.
That one's Oak Street. Now,
Very-
that one, those
that's where
over
Barry
here
grew
were
up.
done by-
No,
those
no.
signs were done by-
Yes. Ask your question.
San Antonio Street with the first pool. Over on the west end of San Antonio Street, with the first pool in town, that flat.
The ones that, the Innerlands.
Wallace Thomas was his name.
That was the design.
Was that the first pool in town?
It wasn't the first pool?
That's the urban.
Was it the first private spot?
And
That top left, which he designed. Down below was,
Reuben Eckert.
President of Community Savings Loan, and he designed it for Fred Matteson, where his wife lived on.
Observing these animals. Correct?
Owned by. I mean, he owns the building.
Went to PNC.
About next. Construction. Look at the Security State Bank. It has little buttresses because the building's and they had to put those in there to stabilize the wall.
Interesting.
And that house, and there was a lot of
Didn't preserve it.
no. As a matter of fact, I was in school when Jack set up here, and I was all invited to that.
I think of the, the goes up, kind of cantilevered, the prominent Fritz house, and it's right. And it's I've been in, and there's an original tile, original floor. I would say pristine. I'm purview of interior, so the new owner can do it. And when we designation process of 705, the question came up, well, because in that case, I have
All right.
Slightly, I knew it because his father was one of the most prominent men in town. He was part of Security State Bank, and but there's an interesting story. There were two attorneys in town. One was Arthur Staley, and one was Alfred Petty. They hated each other.
Oh, my goodness. Why? Is there a story?
I don't really know why, to tell you the truth, but they hated each other, and they got into a lawsuit against each other. And I don't even remember what that was about, but Arthur Staley won. He was awarded $1 bill, and that $1 bill held a prominent location in his life.
Oh, but it did.
And the funny thing about it is yeah, well, yeah, it was. There used to be one of the most prominent attorney's offices, Dooley and Hurst. Okay.